Hey guys, and welcome back to yet another episode of Pod with Us. I'm Mike.
And I'm Daisy.
We are your hosts. Daisy, what do we have in store for our listeners today?
Well, first of all, we're going to kick it off by me saying thank you.
For what?
Because...
To me or to the listeners?
Not to you.
Oh, damn.
To everybody listening out there who voted on our... I'm so excited. My words are getting twisted.
Pop, pop.
Who voted on our Instagram poll. We did a poll, guys, where we asked you what you thought of Mike's behavior.
What do you mean, my behavior?
His behavior on our so-called date, which was not a date.
Okay. Yeah.
Right?
That the poll was the meeting, quote unquote. Should I have paid on the meeting?
Right. And the people have spoken.
What have they said?
They have spoken and they have said, you should have pulled out your coin, brother. You should have pulled out them coins, them notes, or that plastic. It should have been put down. That's what the people have said.
Yeah, you have said it, guys. I'm not going to lie. That's the truth. That's what the stats have said. That's what the polls have said. However, we shouldn't ignore the other voices on the polls.
I mean...
So people are saying it should have been Dutch. People are saying...
By people, can we just clarify that it's literally like 30%, if not less?
Listen, don't despise small beginnings. Look, I listen.
No, you're trying to wriggle your way out of scripture.
Guys, listen. You know, you've heard the reason in episode 2, I believe, or episode 3, the engagement. Episode 2 actually.
Episode 2.
You heard it. I stand by my reasons. I didn't want to lead you on. I didn't want to give you mixed messages. I wanted to make sure that when I said let's continue the conversation, that I wasn't luring you under false pretenses because I wanted to finesse you and put the riz down on you.
You see, this leads us beautifully into our episode today.
What it's about.
Because I'm sure all the sisters out there, you be looking at brother thinking, he gonna treat me to a meal. That is your expectation. But the reality is when the bill comes, he gonna go Dutch.
It's a meeting. Clarify, is this a meeting? Or is this a date? Definitely.
But yes, today we are talking about the expectation versus the reality.
Yes, we are.
Of marriage. Well, from our perspective, in our opinion, what is our expectations, or what were our expectations versus the reality that we actually discovered?
I think I'm going to kick it off because, I wouldn't say every, because I haven't spoken to every single woman out there, but I am going to say almost every woman that I've spoken to always says when it comes to marriage, when it comes to the wedding, I've been thinking about this since I was young. And I've been influenced by Disney and this
Disney.
And that and this.
Good old Rapunzel, Cinderella,
right?
Princess and the Frog.
There's the expectation that's always been in your heart, in your mind. Some women even have wedding mood boards that they've been building for how many years, be that
board.
In your heart, be that in your mind, be it on your actual wall in your room somewhere, who knows? But there's always been that I've been waiting for this day and I'm going to execute everything that my heart has and more plus some. Dare the man even say, I was thinking of wearing maybe brown for my suit or navy for my suit or cream for my suit or white for my suit, and the death stare that comes across the table or the room thinking, you say what? What say?
Not the death stare.
Do you have it in? What say do you have in this? You know how women say, like, they don't want to tell you no, but it's definitely not yes. So they say things like, interesting. They say things like, interesting. That's interesting. Yeah. Okay.
Let's pin that.
Guys, when you hear that, just hear your woman basically saying, that's going to get shut down and cancelled in such a way, but I'm doing this for your feelings. Yeah. So expectation. So what was your expectation of marriage?
I think there were so many expectations that were shot down and so many expectations that were lived up to and surpassed. I think one of the biggest expectations was probably that because in the dating phase we got on so well that automatically we were just going to gel, vibe and, sail off into the sunset as such a great, amazing couple that we were.
Romantic. Sailing off into the distance on a yacht I don't have.
But yeah, that was definitely one of the expectations, I think, that was quickly shot down. Pew, pew, pew. Shot down so quickly. But yeah, no, there were loads of expectations. And I guess most of those expectations were built on a lack of experience, number one. And number two, a lack of understanding to who we really were or weren't yet. And I think that quickly led us into understanding that in marriage, it's literally two broken people coming together.
Say that again for the people at the back.
Honestly.
Because someone's going to press -10 to rewind that again, Daisy. Say it one more time, nice and clear.
It's two broken people coming together. And you have to be able to accept the broken person that is your husband or your wife without having that sense of, I need to fix you, or I need to change you, I need to mold you, adopt you, adapt you. All those things have to go out the window so quickly.
Wow.
And I think
That's
when
good.
you're dating, you naturally you put your best foot forward. Always. Nobody comes
Always.
Like, I'm going to show you the worst of me.
Yeah.
And even if you happen to see the worst of somebody along that journey, it's still not necessarily to their doing. Like, it's just because a situation occurred that maybe you happen to see or go through some things together. And I think that's what the case was for us in our early marriage stages.
Yeah.
We quickly got to see all sides of each other.
But one thing that we did, I guess this is more like hopping a little bit back into the dating period. I think it was early on, wasn't it? We just opened up the closet of skeletons and said, these are my skeletons. Right from the very, very beginning. I mean, even you had your what do you call it? Your deal breakers, that if I didn't have a certain something, this was going to go no further.
In another episode.
Another episode, I guess, yeah. But those expectations.
Yeah, and I think I was going to say that a big part of, I guess, what helped us go into the whole closet and be able to pull out all those skeletons and lay them bare before each other was our premarital counselling, which I think was gold.
Huge
help
to us. Huge help to us. And it's funny because we've done premarital counselling for other people, but to have it to be on the other side of the table, as it were, huge blessing.
Yeah.
You know who you are, you listening. Huge blessing
in
our lives at that stage.
Shout out to our counsellor because you
just had to take that sledgehammer and break down all those walls of expectation that Daisy was lifting up like a high and mighty palace that ain't no person can get over. And no, they were reasonable. I think it was just and it's a funny thing, right? Because when you speak to people in general, people are educated, people are smart, if I was to meet a listener, and have a conversation, I'm sure we would have a whale of a time and enjoying each other's minds and what you have to contribute to whatever topic we talk about. But there's something different about speaking to somebody who knows about marriage but is not married, and someone who knows about marriage and is married. And there's that word that would trigger anybody listening to this call is, if you know about marriage but you're not married, you are naive. And this is not me disrespecting anybody at all, but you do not have the experience of being married. So there's the knowledge, and then there's knowledge applied. And knowledge applied is called AKA wisdom. You have the wisdom of marriage, because I've tried knowledge 1, I've tried knowledge 2 and 3, and from the experiences and from the ups and downs, the arguments, the conversations and this and that, I think knowledge 2 is the best way to go. So somebody might know knowledge 1, 2 and 3, but I know what knowledge 1, 2 and 3, but knowledge 2 is the one that works.
That's so key, because we have there are some basic principles that perhaps govern us as people in general and us as Christians, which don't change whether you've experienced it or not. They are foolproof. And then you've got the lived out experience of somebody who's gone through the journey and can tell you, actually, like, yes, this is the way that you should do it, but I understand the challenges that come with you having to do that. And I'm not telling you not to stand up to this or hold up this level and this standard, but I can just empathize with you and sympathize with you as well on how hard that may be to do it.
And it's so easy. It's so easy. You know, when the Bible says, you know, in Ephesians 5, verse 20, 21, submit to each other in the fear of the Lord. And husbands, love your wives, and wives, submit to your husband, all that kind of stuff. It sounds super simple as one-liners in the Bible, but when you're in the heat of an argumentative battle, or when you're in the heat of, gosh, the pressure's on me to make a key decision or something like that, Daisy, how easy it is for you to practice submission. Mike, how easy is it for me to practice love? When I'm just like, we are here because something I said maybe 6 months ago or 6 weeks ago, and you didn't listen then, and it's here now, and we are here because of what you have or haven't done. I've got to practice love in that moment.
Yeah, absolutely.
And bite my tongue and not say the things I have an absolute sense of human justice to say, but say, love keeps no record of wrong.
Yeah.
Love is patient.
Yeah.
Love is kind. And all of the stuff with that, I got to practice this.
Yeah. And it's such a different experience, isn't it? From before you're married, you hear, like, I remember watching all these messages and these seminars and conferences and stuff that are supposed to prepare you for marriage. And like, bless them, they do an amazing job.
They do a great job.
What it's meant to do. And I remember listening to it and thinking, absolutely, like, I'm so ready for this. I'm so equipped for this. Like, I've got this. Like, I've heard, I've read, I've watched. Like, I'm there. I am ready, Lord. I have embodied everything that you've said I should embody to prepare myself for this journey.
Which means the conferences have done their job. It's to give you the equipment, it's give you the tools, and to make you feel hopeful and courageous into going into this war zone you never know even existed.
It's almost like literally it's literally like training versus reality. It's training. You start a new job, you go in your induction, you know, they give you that great sense of, this is what it is, this is what this is our policy and procedure, this is what it should be, this is what, you know, we require of our staff, and this is what the model member of staff is supposed to be like, and this is our company ethos, these are our core values, and you leave there feeling like, wow, this is an amazing company, like, I'm so privileged to work here, I love it, you know, you're so proud of yourself. And then, you know, fast forward into like week 3, when, you know, the glitz and glams, or even month 3, the glitz and glam has wore off. Everybody now treats you as part of the furniture because they feel like, you know, the second roll of induction has come through. So you are no longer the newest member of staff on our team. And suddenly you're dealing with things and you're like, wow. They did not prepare me for this. You know, how am I supposed to do this with that? Wait, what? Wait, what? We only have 4 hours to do this.
All that support resource is now gone to somebody else. Right. You're on your own. Right. And you're like, hang on a minute. Hello. We only got up to, you know, number 10 on the induction, but there's 23 chapters. Who's going to take me through the rest of this? Like, how am I supposed to do this? Right.
And that's kind of how it felt a little bit. It felt like, now we're in the war zone. We've been dropped off by the helicopter in the military. We're in the middle of the war zone, and
you know, we've given you the gun. We've told you how to shoot it. We told you to stay safe,
and we've told you who the enemy is. Off you go.
Go win and don't die.
Don't die. Just survive. But no, it definitely, I think I was quickly came to that realization and understanding that I was so ill-equipped for marriage. No, that's a lie, actually. I was very well equipped.
Yeah, that's true. We were very equipped because of the marriage counselling and the way we were raised.
Yeah. But I think there's only so much equipping you can do. The majority of we heard, I mean, this is a popular saying, it probably won't be the first time most of you have heard it, and it won't be the last for sure, but there is that popular saying that says that marriage is the only institute where you receive your qualification before you start, like day one.
Cook the whole thing, right? Because that statement is so powerful. Cook it, put it in context.
When you go to school, university, you go through 3 years. Then at the end of it, you receive a certificate. When you're at work and you do a course, you go through the whole thing. At the end of it, you go through a graduation, you receive your certificate. In marriage, you do the graduation ceremony first. You do that on day one.
You sign your certificate.
Day one. You get your congratulations. Day one.
Right.
Everybody's celebrating your achievement on day one. Then comes day two. You're like, oh, wow. We're really doing this. And you are literally learning as you go.
Literally.
You are learning as you go. All the equipment, all the things that you've just gotten a certificate for and signed off in, you are learning along the way.
Absolutely.
So I think that is the design of marriage. And therefore that means that there is only so much equipping that can be done before. And also, I think the biggest part of the expectation versus reality busting myths kind of is because you don't fully know the person that you're dealing with until you're actually together 24/7, having to deal with life issues, having to deal with certain things. That's when you really know the person before you. And also that person before you is changing and growing.
Yeah.
So the person that you met and you were dating a year ago, 2 years ago, 3 months ago, whatever, may be a completely different person because they're also dealing with the changes that they've taken on, the responsibilities that they've taken on.
Exactly. And you got all those extra interpersonal things that you got to be growing at, good at, like communication skills, emotional intelligence, conflict resolution, planning, financial planning, parental planning, all of these things. And to be top of your game, to be at the top of your game 24/7 pretty much, it's exhausting.
It's exhausting.
People just want to be understood because I just want to be understood.
100%.
I want to say one word and you hear 10.
100%. And even
It's tough.
Literally down to the basic things. One of the things that I think I'm most grateful for is from the very beginning. I think when we were at Bible study, for example, I would come with absolutely no makeup on, hair looking very basic, because even things like physical pressures was a big thing. So I'm glad that in marriage, that's not something. I wasn't scared of you seeing me without makeup. I'm not scared of like, oh my gosh, if I wake up looking this way today, what's he gonna think? Because you've seen me in my most bare basic form, like in regular everyday life. So you seeing me like that it's not a problem.
Yeah.
We had certain conversations through our marriage counseling. Like we literally went through like finances and were able to share, do you have any debt? Do I have any debt?
Right.
What is your financial management like? How much do you make? How much do I make? How much of that is spent on a monthly basis? So then through that you can gauge how does this person handle their finances? When
you have money, how do you handle it? Do you
Literally.
just spend everything, do you hold back and say, hold on a second, do we question every single buy, or do you just buy everything?
And that informs a lot, because even from that, we discovered so much about each other through, for example, the way that we're raised, how we grew up informs so much of how we behave and how you treat marriage, how you are. We realized very quickly that our upbringing was the complete opposite. Like even in finances, for example, you were raised by pretty much, similar in some senses, but very different. You were raised by your mum, majority of your childhood, and there was 4 boys and she had to provide for you and 3 other brothers, whereas I was raised by myself. Like I don't have any siblings, I'm an only child, and we very much lived in surplus, and it was the complete opposite for you. So that informed the way in which we spent our first shopping trip when we decided to go food shopping.
I just got to land this one real quick. That was a really interesting experience. It was just food shopping. We just said, let's go and get some food for the house that we were in. And then we go into the shop, we park up, go into the shop, grab the trolley basket. I think it was a trolley, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was a trolley.
And we're going into the first aisle, and I can see Daisy. She's in front of me, and I'm pushing the cart behind her. I can see her. She just enters this mode. She's got her list in her hand, or I think it was on her phone, and she's looking around. I can see, her hands are all like twinkle stars. She's thinking, where am I going to go first? Where am I going to go next? And I'm looking at her and I said to her, our budget is this. The way that heaven and earth stopped, she's turned around and she looked at me and she just gave me one look, as in that, don't even talk to me about budget. I'm going to get what I need when I need it, because I know why I need it. Don't ever question me ever again. I looked at her and I was like,
I did not say that, by the way,
okay. This is what I thought I heard. Okay, she actually
on
did
the
not say
thought.
anything. She actually didn't say anything. She just simply just said, well, she said nothing, and I was like, "You said all of that? you telepathically put that in my brain." But that was a day. That was one of the first days I realized that we've got two different financial languages.
Literally, to me, it was just like I had never shopped with budgets. Like when we go into a supermarket with my mum, we just pick what we want when we as we want it.
But I also think before you met me, I was living by myself. For like 2 years, maybe 3 years, and so there were times in the time when it was really easy to live my life. But paying rent in London, central London, was not cheap, man.
Yeah.
And there were times when money had to be go here for a reason, to be in this for a reason. I'm like, this is what I have at the end of the month, and I've got to make some tough decisions. I can't just be spending what I want to spend and be like, oh, yeah, there's a lot of money in the account. So when you met me, I was already in that mental discipline of budgeting, be smart, be reasonable, delayed gratification. And so when I went into the shop, I automatically went into that mode of like, there's a budget. And you were like, what are you talking about?
Budget who?
Budget what?
Budget what?
Budget when?
Budget what?
So, go on.
But that was like another light bulb moment where that's just something that I would never think to discuss, because in my mind it was like, well, this is normal. This is how I do things.
Right.
This is how everybody does things,
Yeah.
surely. And from you, it's like, well, this is my normal. This is how I presume that everybody does things.
And that's marriage, isn't it? Marriage is
It
the
is.
practice. I believe, we believe, you believe, the Christian practice of two becoming one flesh.
Yeah.
So the two different proclivities, the two different habits, the two different ways of doing things, the way that I've always done things, is saying, okay, what can I just let go? What can I merge? And what new thing can we create from the two? It's like, how do we function as one? It's like, I walk into the shop and I know exactly what Daisy's going to do. Guys, you've probably seen this on your feeds on some social media platform, but there's that meme that goes around where one guy was saying, the reason why I hold my wife's hands in the shopping, because it's economically viable, it's economical control before she goes off in one direction, comes back with a basket full of goodies. And I'm thinking, why did we come to spend $7.99 on a bar, and we're now spending $799 on a whole passageway remake and remodel. So that's funny stuff. Because whenever Daisy goes in, I instantly let go of her hand, because Daisy, when she shops or when she moves in these places, I'm like, she's just a different person. Not a bad. She's just, Daisy moves and so like, I know I will like it when I see it. So when she sees it, it's like, oh, what did you say? This is giving. This is giving. And I'm like, what is it giving? I don't know. And then I'm like, oh, we need a clock or we need a lamp. I'm like, let's get this. She's like, no, it's just not giving. I'm like, giving what? We said we wanted, this is the colour theme, this is the colour type, this is the style we're going for.
Guys, back me up here. You all know what I mean. You know, when you see something, you're like, it's giving. Like, you just know instantly. It's
tired of that damn word.
It is.
Giving. Giving what? It's
I don't
giving
know
nothing.
how to explain it, but you just know. Like,
I get
yes,
it.
it's
I get
giving
where you're
that.
coming
Yes,
from.
it's giving that boom.
Do you know what I
it's
say?
giving
I don't know if it will trigger the room, but I said to Daisy, is this you having a conference call with your ovaries?
Oh my gosh.
Conference call with your womb? Is this them moving in the depths and bowels of womanhood that talks to you this way?
It's nothing to do with that. For goodness sake, it's
look at your face.
To do
Look at
with
your
that.
face. It's got everything to do with it.
No, but yes, nonetheless, you're right.
So it's about becoming one. It's about me understanding what are your instincts, what are your insights, what are the things that are unspoken that I start to tune into. So whenever we walk into a shop, whenever we walk into a food place, whenever we walk into a restaurant, whenever I'm planning a date night, whatever, I'm like, I'm pretty much tuned in what you are into. So I can plan ahead. Like, one thing that I feel like I'm winning good points on, my good husband points, is we're going somewhere, I'm surprising you. You might see I saved a date in the calendar. I'm keeping details hidden, obviously. And we'll like, guys, we do this thing where we do a date night, and then in the address bar, rather than put the address where we're going, we will put a hashtag, 2 hashtags, and one hashtag will be like, you know, sweet and smart. Another hashtag could be, you know, fun and sweaty. Or, the combination is not important, but it's just that we'll put a hashtag to give you clues to say this is what you got to wear. This is the kind of energy you're going to be giving. This is the hair or the shoes you're going to be wearing. You don't be wearing high heels to a fun and sweaty event.
Right.
You never know. And so I've never, from Daisy's, you can say it on record now, have I ever let you down when it comes to you've worn the right outfit and the right shoes for the right event at the right time for the right reasons?
Only on our first ever date, but since then, no. So
for the last 10 years, I'm 99.99999% successful.
I mean...
You said it on the first date. It's been 10 years. It's been plenty of dates ever since.
It's been 9 years. We haven't hit 10 yet.
Oh, okay.
Don't be premature. I want to celebrate 10 when we get to 10.
Prophesying, man. Catch it, catch it. Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, I guess I'm probably like belaboring the point that marriage is the practice of two becoming one. So yes, you have your ways of doing things, but it's asking yourself on a daily basis, what can I let go of and what can I embrace so I become closer to my spouse?
Absolutely.
Closer to my wife in such a way that we are now becoming indistinguishable in our thoughts, indistinguishable in our appetites, indistinguishable in our affections, indistinguishable for our wants and aspirations in life together.
Yeah.
And we think as one. So when you're by yourself, you know exactly how I'd react to something, and same thing for you. Yeah.
And it's also remembering that, like, obviously marriage as an institution, marriage as a beautiful union it is, based on biblical principles, is meant to mirror our marriage, or rather Christ's marriage, to the church. So it's also understanding that as the bride of Christ, we are so far from perfection. It's an absolute joke.
True story.
We are so far from perfection. Like, we show up every day, like, you know, not even close to, I'm sure, what his original design and desire for us was.
Yeah.
Yet he still loves us.
Yeah.
Yet he still gives us 100%, even when we show up with that 3%, 4%, 10%.
Say that again,
he
Daisy.
Still shows up with 100% and doesn't withhold back from us.
You know exactly that. I say the same thing that you just said. You know, Christ loving the church. Apologies, I know I just interrupted you. You was just mid-sentence, so I know you're exercising a lot of patience right now, but I had to agree with you on this point with such emphatic. I had to just interject, baby. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
I'm sorry, baby girl. But yeah, you know, how does Christ, husbands love your wife as Christ loved the church and gave his life for her. How did he give his life for her? And there's other places in the Bible that illustrate how he did that. Romans is a good place to start, where, you know, while we were yet still sinners, Christ died for us. And so when the Bible speaks about hamartiology, speaks about anthropology and the effects that sin has on us, sin has killed us. The wages of sin is death. We are dead in our sins. We are dead to anything that allows us to exercise spiritual insights, speaking to God, being involved, you know, hearing the gospel. All these things, we're dead. Can something that's dead hear? No. Can something that is dead see? No. You're dead. You're inanimate. You have no life in you. So while we were 0%, Christ died for us. He gave 100%. Didn't have to come and die for anybody. If God let the whole world slide into hell, he's completely just, according to the doctrines of Christianity. So the fact that he died for us means that he gave 100%. So as one illustration of how I should love you is that where you give me, potentially you will give me on a particular day, in a particular hour of that day, 0. I mean, you're giving me smoke. You're smoking up the whole house. I mean, you're fire. I feel like, wow. I am commanded to love you 100%. I cannot withdraw because you've disrespected me, or you've said something that is out of turn, or I'm like, I have every right to give you the silent treatment. I have every right to I've got to treat you with love. Doesn't mean that I can't say anything back to you, but whatever I say back to you needs to be completely soaked
in love. Yeah.
In a way that I'm dying in the moment, dying to my pride, dying to my ego, dying to anything that says I want to hurt you back.
Yeah.
And I'm going to snap back at you because I know I can.
Yeah.
And I really want to. But how do I die to myself so I can love you? So you've just triggered a whole sermon in me to come out. But back to you, babe. Thanks for allowing me to speak in that moment. I know you had something on your mind.
No, that actually is still in line with exactly what I was going on to say, which you've pretty much said, which is the beauty of that is understanding that even in those moments when we reflect on our relationship with Christ and his marriage to us as a church and him still giving 100%, it helps us to inform us that exactly as you've said, we still need to give 100% to the person that you're married to. So even in our state of brokenness, it was just that understanding that the reality of marriage is I still have to show up even when I don't feel like it. When I feel like you don't deserve it, I still have to show up as 100% of a wife. Like, I don't get to say I'm going to be 50% of a wife today. And I think we both realized that very quickly on. And you bust that reality. I mean, the expectation of it is that he's going to be amazing all the time. And even in those moments when he's not amazing, I'm going to be able to handle it. And then the reality is actually when he's not amazing, you're not always going to be able to handle it. But even in those moments when I feel like I don't want to handle it or I can't handle it, I still have to show up 100% as that wife that loves, honors and respects you. Like that's marriage. That's what I signed up for. That is the covenant and that is the certificate that I signed my name onto. Yeah.
Let's take a breathe, guys. Let's breathe. Let's have a Selah moment, because that, I think, is a part, not in total, but a part of the high call of marriage. Christian marriage that follows what the Bible outlines in its relationship, as we see the relationship prescriptively and descriptively of Christ and the church. The submission thing, and then the loving thing, the respect thing, and the understanding things. And guys, there's even parts in the Bible where God puts so much protection and grace on the wife, where if a husband harbors bitterness in his heart towards his wife, God says that he's
bounce back.
Come on now. So if you are in the marriage and your wife is just giving you reasons to be bitter, or you haven't forgiven, because bitterness is just basically unresolved forgiveness, unresolved unforgiveness. I'm not sure if you can put the double negatives in a sentence like that, but essentially, if you are harboring the next day and the next month and the next year actions and words that she has said that you are holding bitterness to, God's like, until you resolve that, I ain't hear no prayer. So you're out here praying, you're shandai, and you're fasting. God's like, you ain't resolved that? I am not hearing your prayer. So,
and I think that, sorry to interrupt you, but I think that is also a huge reality of marriage that wasn't in the expectation, is just realizing how deep marriage is.
Right.
And that may sound silly and a bit naive. And to a degree, I personally was quite naive when we got married. I mean, I was only 24. So there was that naivety in me not understanding quite just how deep marriage goes, like how interwoven it is into everything that we do from that point on, from the point that we say I do, and understanding the weight and gravity it carries, just like you said, as a husband, understanding that, wow, like your relationship to God is impacted by how you treat your wife, how you decide to behave and conduct yourself within marriage.
Yeah.
That impacts your relationship with God, and likewise for a wife. But also, even as a wife, understanding, like, there's that scripture, I believe it's in 2 Peter, I could be wrong, but speaks of like how a wife gains back her husband by that just gentle, lowly sense of prayer and the way in which you conduct yourself, not that harsh, catty, bite back, like snappy responses, which, trust me, I have for days. But that is not what wins over my husband's heart, but it's more that quiet, gentle spirit. It's that sense of submission. It's that sense of honoring God, and the way that I behave towards God, my relationship with God, also speaking to him and him seeing that and being like, wow, look at the way she adorns herself for God in her attributes, in her character, in her behavior. That's like, wow, that's what I want. And that's something that I didn't think of. That's something that, you know, things like that society doesn't push out. Like we said at the beginning, when you think of what your idea of marriage is based upon, unfortunately for me, I can only speak for myself. I don't know for others, but mine sadly wasn't actually based on the Bible. It wasn't based on the word. My idea and my expectation of reality was based on society. It was based on what I had seen in Hollywood, what I had seen in movies, what I had seen in shows, what I had seen in my family and what happened before me, what I had grown up experiencing and watching, what was happening around me in the church. Very little of it was based on what does the Bible say?
Yeah.
What does God say about the institution that he created, that he brought forth into this world, that he placed into being? What does he say? And I think that was a huge part of where we go wrong with our expectations, is because to begin with, they're based and rooted in the wrong thing. Even looking at other couples, like now I realize how foolish it is to compare, because what's going on in another marriage can never happen in this marriage, because we're two completely different people living completely different circumstances. So it's never going to be the same. So much of our expectations are rooted from the very wrong foundation to begin with.
True story. And not all that glitters is gold, right?
Absolutely not.
And we've learned with the privilege that we've had to stay in contact with other married couples and building that trust with them. And we hear the stories, we hear the internal, sometimes secret struggles of marriage. Is tough.
It's tough.
It really is tough.
I think we say that like almost there's not a week that goes by when we don't say, man, marriage is hard.
It's
it's one of the most common phrases in our household.
I genuinely say to myself, like, God, if I didn't have you as my anchor, if I didn't have your word as a guide in these matters, I wouldn't survive it. There's been, guys, I'm being serious. There's been times I've been like, I'm done. I want to just take off the ring and just dash it across the road. I'm like, literally, I'm good. Yeah, I'm like, I made a covenant through thick and thin, you know, for richer, for poorer, for better or for worse, in sickness and in health. I will have and hold you. And I need to be able to embrace the worst Daisy as well as the best kind of Daisy. Absolutely. Because I am responsible for the ear of salvation. And I think that's why God places so much protection over the ears of salvation that are wives in marriage, women in marriage. He put so much protection on that, because I've been given a responsibility to be a part of your stewardship, to be a part of your Christian formation. I've been given the responsibility to make sure that you're washed with the word. So, you know, that spiritual leadership of my home, I'm going to make sure that, I'm tuned into that, and I'm doing that. And so at the end of the age, when he comes and cracks the sky again, stops time and says, now it's done, I'm calling everyone's name to justice. He's going to say, what did you do with Daisy? I'm like, I did the best I can with your ear of salvation. I was just a custodian of your child. Do you know what I'm saying? Because when we get to heaven, marriages will cease to exist, because the marriage to the Lamb will be the preeminent and only one. Yeah. But that's my role. That's my job here. And, you know, the role of what the Bible says about what a husband is, when you get down into it, and I don't think we've even reached the bottom, even a quarter of a way down to what really these roles are about, you begin to discover the high calling of a wife, the high calling of a husband, and the importance of playing your role in that. You know, it's all well and good saying, oh, I can do what you can do and we can do each other's role. Yeah, of course you can. But is it smart? Is it efficient? Does it make sense? You're built a certain way. I'm built a certain way. Occupy that space. Complement each other. Have each other's back. as a man, I'm going to stand, I'm going to give leadership, provision, and I'm going to just do what I got to do. You as a woman, you do what you got to do. There's sometimes days you're like, it could be random times during the day. It could be wake up in the morning, or I could be watching you talking to somebody, or I could be watching you on the phone, and I'm like, wow, the capacity that she has to talk to people, and I can see what she's already gone through during the day. I've just seen her. I look at you sometimes, I'm like, wow, I'm amazed. I'm like, I could not do what you've just done.
Babe.
No, for real. No, for real. Look at it. I'm like, wow. I'm like, wow. You know, I think the last time I did that, we was at the Christmas party for our church, and everybody was doing their thing, and everybody was there. Everyone was looking nice. And there was a time when I just looked at you, you caught my eye. No, you caught my eye, but you weren't looking at me. You was doing your thing. I was like, I've genuinely got the best woman here, because I'm looking at you and thinking, not just because you look scrumptious and you look yummy.
Oh gosh.
But I was like, wow, look at your grace. Look at how you carry yourself. And I'm like, I have the privilege of being your husband. And it's every day. It's every day. It's like, as you said in the, a couple of episodes ago, I made the decision, an intentional decision to choose you. I choose you today because you've changed. And we grow in our marriage.
Yeah.
Et cetera, et cetera. As we kind of like wind down the episode today, I think one of my learns is it's so complex. Marriage is complex. Becoming one is a complex process, and it's always good to have a shared common value, shared common playbook on how you are going to live out your values of marriage. For us, that's the Bible. For us, that's the graces of Christianity. That we use to practice leadership of one another, submission to one another. We practice, the values of forgiveness and the values of, decision making and all of these things. So for me, marriage is marrying. But it's marrying in a way that I'm loving it. There's been some difficult times. I mean, we've had some real dark times.
Yeah.
But there's been some amazing, beautiful times I've never seen before.
Times.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's been amazing. And it continues to be amazing by God's grace. So, yeah.
Yeah. Thanks for joining, guys. We've come to the end of another episode. Look out for the next ones coming out in a couple of weeks. So stay subscribed. Let us know your thoughts on this episode. And watch out for another episode of Pod With Us.